Okay, now that you've played the Spanish Civil War, you then set up the winning side in the respective default setup. Either side is placed in the turn order after the Soviet Union, and either Spain makes no moves or purchases while neutral. It's recommended to play with the strict neutrals rule changed to regions. So what I mean by that is that South America is a region, Europe with the respective colonies is a region, or you can split it up for an alternate region where these two are one region, and Spain and Portugal are another region. But if Spain jumps into the war, Portugal then reverts to this region and jumps into that. So players can pick which one they want to choose. I like that version because it allows a little bit more flexibility if wanting to declare war on Spain while it's neutral. And then the Middle East is Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey is another region. If you play with Turkey and as its own nation, maybe you don't want to include that. I don't know, but we haven't locked that down. But just for options, but overall consider this a region. So the Axis takes Saudi Arabia for that oil derrick, and then these become pro-allied. They invade Turkey, they become pro-allied, etc., while it's neutral. Mongolia, kind of the same thing. It's its own thing for the most part. If it becomes a strict neutral, because of the Mongolian rule being broken, if it becomes a strict neutral, then it could possibly be lumped into the stance with these three, with whatever their stance is. That becomes that stance. So that's what I was thinking. Dog's having some water. Okay, and let's see. Now Portugal, the thing with Portugal now basically acts as a Mongolian rule for nationalist Spain or Republican Spain. So if the Allies declare war on Spain and they attack Spain while it's neutral, then these two automatically become nationalist units. And the same thing with this. And that's because they had an Iberian Pact, which also helped keep them out of the war, from my understanding. Both helped keep both countries out of the war, but basically the pact was that they had each other's backs, more or less. So if the Allies wanted to jump into Spain, they can do that, but they're going to give them 3 extra IPCs and 6 extra units, and they're going to have to deal with those 4 guys down there. Same with the Axis declaring war on Republican Spain. These guys would become allies, and it's going to be that much harder. 4 more guys down here, 4 more Republican Spanish units down here. It's going to be that much harder for the Axis to make leeway down here if they want to. Maybe they don't, but that's the idea. Anyway, okay. Bumping my stand. Okay. Okay, so here we have the national setup. And in order for nationalist Spain to join the war, either the Allies have to declare war on Spain, or the Axis have to control London, or the European Axis have to reach the Reich point. And if either of these conditions are true at the start of Spain's hypothetical first turn, so if they get the Reich point, Russia gets a chance to knock it back down. If on Spain's hypothetical first turn the Reich point is valid, they may then decide to declare war on the Allies. And if they choose to remain neutral, they may not decide again until a condition is met again on any following turn. Now, some of you may glance at this and worry if Spain is overpowered. We found that this is necessary in order for Spain to be functional. For instance, the AAA. National Spain have 2 AAA. They start off with one in the Spanish Civil War, as do the Republicans. Maybe the Republicans captured one of these AAA in the maybe the Nationalists captured the AAA from the Republicans in the Spanish Civil War. They spend a few rounds neutral, so they those first 3 or so rounds neutral, so they don't bog down those first rounds of the game. You can chalk up some of these added units to things that may have been purchased during those rounds. There's no way Spain's going to be in the war on round 1, round 2, maybe round 3 at the earliest if you pull off an early successful sea lion and take that. But then if Spain jumps in because of sea lion, that may help offset the Germans having to can then push some of their forces more against Russia, as opposed to having to play defense over here with America. Maybe Spain can be utilized to help with that, and so the Germans can push at least up to here as opposed to being stuck over there. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so yeah, so basically just chalk up some of these things to what Spain was able to purchase while it was neutral. So now here, speaking of purchases, they have normally 6 IPCs to play with based off of their starting income. Here are their national objectives. That's right, they got 4 national objectives, and more than likely you're going to have only 1, maybe 2 of these in play at a time. So they are as follows: 2 IPCs when they're at war with the Allies for no Allied naval ships in the Mediterranean. Okay? 1 IPC per territory. This is similar to Italy's NO for territories that are only worth money to Italy. 1 IPC per territory if Spain or an Axis power controls Spanish Morocco, Rio de Oro, Gibraltar, Casablanca, Sierra Leone, or Gold Coast. Okay, I know Sierra Leone, we made Sierra Leone a British territory, and siredblood did that in BBR 4, and I think he gave both of these an IPC value, or at least one of them. I forget off the top of my head. But in BBR 3, they're not worth anything to anybody. But in this game, so it kind of reflects that with this. In BBR 4, they're worth, maybe $1, but an IPC. But anyway, so there's that. Oh, and then so obviously Spanish Morocco. Just to back up to this, Spanish Morocco and Rio de Oro, right away. That's so if they join the war, they would get $8 if they don't have if they don't have Gibraltar or whatever. And then we have, this is a little far-fetched, but it's still valid. The idea is that they're, want to reclaim former colonial territories. 2 IPCs if they control the West Indies, Central America, Southeast Mexico, or Mexico. And 1 IPC per territory for every South American territory they control. So all these territories that normally never come into the game that are worth nothing, those are all worth 1 IPC to Spain. And any of these other territories that are worth money to everybody else, that's worth an additional money, an IPC to Spain. These 3 are worth an IPC to Spain. I know these 4 were former, this was a former Portuguese territory. Spain had all this originally, but I mean, Spain would just want it. Hypothetically, they would just want it, right? So that's the idea. That's the idea of that. Obviously, the Allies want to prevent this from happening because if, conditions are right, the idea is that Spain could possibly grow like a cancer, especially if when they jump in, these are in pro-Axis stance, right? If they somehow get down here and these are not pro-Axis yet because Germany hasn't gotten to the 53 IPC right point or whatever, they would become pro-Allied. So that's something to keep in mind. But the idea is, the Allies want to work to contain Spain, make sure Spain doesn't jump into the war or whatever. Everybody has to react to what's going on. By the time that comes in, they have to react to it. So most of the time, they're dealing with these two NOs for the most part. When they're active, they're dealing with those. These are wishful thinking, but they can happen, especially this one. It can happen. Okay? All right, so that about covers the nationalists. Now here's the setup for Republican Spain. As you can see, it's a little different and ultimately a little weaker than the nationalist setup. The idea basically here, we're going into alternate history, is that if they did win the war, it would have been at a much greater cost to them. They would be even less ready for war than the nationalists would have been, right? So that's the idea I was kind of going for with it. Republican Spain may join the war if the Axis have declared war upon them, or if all of these conditions are met. So if London is Allied controlled, if the European Axis are at war with the Soviet Union, and there are no Axis warships in the Mediterranean or C-Zone 91. So if this is free of Axis warships and London's Allied controlled, and they're at war with the Soviet Union, then Spain may jump in. But again, maybe they don't want to. maybe there's too many forces. Maybe there's too much forces here in Southern Europe. You know, even if they're going to be a launch, even if they're going to be a launch pad halfway into the game, maybe it's better not to. You know, it's all it's all depending on what the situation is at the time when you can activate them. You know, you also keep in mind you got Portugal. You still got the Portuguese units. These two here, and these two here. You know, if the Axis declare war upon them, but maybe the Axis would want to declare war upon them because again, it's a weaker setup. You know, maybe they want to nip that problem in the bud. You know. So anyway, let's see, where was I? Obviously, this is all hypothetical, and we've entered alternate history. The idea here is that if a Republican Spain was successful in beating fascism, they would want to do that again and contribute to it, provided it is safe to do so. So it's got to be real safe for a Republican Spain to jump into the war. You know, conditions got to be right for them. Let's see. National objectives are as follows. Again, they have 4, and they're a little different. So 1 IPC per territory if they control Spanish Morocco, Rio de Oro, or any original French territory. So if you play with a Vichy rule, or if you play with and these are Axis controlled, Spain gets in the war, and if they're able to take them, well, if they're able to take this territory, that's now $2, 2 IPCs to Republican Spain. You know, this if they liberate these, but you know, Paris is still controlled, so they're not liberated. But if they take control of these territories, any original French territory, you know, that's an extra $1 to them. If they're able to get up into here, that's $3, 3 IPCs. Sorry, I keep saying dollars. 3 IPCs to Republican Spain, 4 IPCs to Republican Spain. You know, if provided you know Paris isn't liberated. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. You know, you could view it as like a spreading of communism kind of thing. 2 IPCs if there are no Axis warships in the Atlantic except sea zones 113 to 115. The Baltic Sea. So that doesn't count. But if there's no Axis warships here, there's none there, they get some more money because, you know, supplies and, you know, convoys and all that, you know. And then 2 IPCs per territory they control that was originally German, Italian, or pro-Axis. We did have a game where they loaded up on this transport, and the transport was here, and it went 1, 2, 3, and then unloaded units here, which then went into Bulgaria. So they get an extra $1 if they actually get to a pro-Axis territory, you know. Anyway, okay, and let's see what else. Oh yeah, last national objective. Again, a little far-fetched, but it's possible, especially with air transports. If a one-time payment of 5 IPCs if there is at least 1 Soviet Union present in mainland Spain. So if a strategic bomber lands over, you know, Russia's at war with them, and Russia can send somehow, probably a strategic bomber, to mainland Spain and get a unit there, then on Republican Spain's turn, after that unit's still there, he's not killed, Spain gets an extra $5 to play with whatever else that they're using. So kind of a one-time payment of 5 IPCs. It's kind of like a, you know, a Manchuria liberation thing. One-time payment for that. Felt appropriate, one-time payment for that, you know. Basically a theme of Soviet support there. So that's about it. These files, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, these will be in the Google Drive folder, and you can double side them if you want. Mine are a little off when I made them, but yeah, just to play with the size of the files. And I don't think this back is not currently in the Google Drive folder, but we will be adding that soon. and all that. So again, feel free to send me any questions, ideas, etc. If you want the map, the full map, again, if you want the full map, you got to email me at moosecowhq@gmail.com. If you want the full map, email me there and provide me proof of payment to Sireblood for his map files, and I'll happily send you that link to that map file. So anyway, yeah, send me, so like I said, send me questions, ideas, etc. Let's keep the community growing. Remember, just roll the dice better.